With the final season of the final Marvel Netflix show over and done, I think it's time for us to rank each season and see which one was the best. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Turnout. I am your host, Aloy. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at TheTurnoutUSAA and visit our website at usaaudiences.com for a special event and movie screening invites for early movies if you're into that sort of thing. So I've been a huge fan of the MCU in general, but I am an even bigger fan of the Netflix Marvel shows. Daredevil, The Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. I have enjoyed these characters for years now, and I have loved the development of these characters, where they took the storylines, and the portrayal of some of these lesser-known heroes, and having more grounded stories to work with. But Jessica Jones Season 3 just finished on Netflix, and that is the last season of the last show. All of the Netflix Marvel shows have been canceled, and there will be no more coming from Netflix. It doesn't mean that they won't come out later on, but just not right now. So with that in mind, I took some time and went through all of the seasons one more time so that I could share with you which ones are my favorites and which ones are my least favorites. Before we jump into that, don't forget to hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when we release a new video here on The Turnout. Alright, let's get into it. Number 13 is Iron Fist Season 1. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about the issues with Iron Fist Season 1. The storytelling was off, and while I could appreciate it for what it was, it definitely fell to the bottom of this list in terms of quality. And this was a timing issue, it was a budget issue, it was a storytelling issue, it was a focus issue. There were a lot of things going on with Iron Fist Season 1. It was the worst of the seasons, even at its worst, it was still pretty good. Number 12 is Jessica Jones Season 2. So Jessica Jones Season 2 is so far down on the list, and it's because I take issue with the idea of personal stories. A lot of writers think that personal stories mean it has to be a parent. And even if that parent's dead, it means bring them back from the dead. And it's really just an overused trope. This season used that trope, but didn't execute it well. So even though there were some good parts of the season, such as Trish getting her powers, the rift building between Malcolm and Jessica, I enjoyed those things, but overall, it wasn't that great. Number 11 is The Defenders. This was the crossover season that had all 4 of the major heroes in it. It's kind of far down on the list because I feel like it was wasted potential. The Hand was a really cool enemy, and yet they messed it up. Sigourney Weaver did a great job in her portrayal, but the characters weren't right. Also, none of the stars had anything that really highlighted them or made them stand out. The whole thing just came off kind of bland. And even though I liked some of the interaction between the characters, they didn't focus enough on that to make it worthwhile. It was honestly a lot of characters acting out of character in that series. So I enjoyed it for what it was. Now we're into the top 10. Number 10 is Punisher Season 2. The thing with the second season of The Punisher is that it was a ton of action. There were some gruesome fight scenes, amazing direction. The acting was on point, but I never felt like any of it meant anything. There was no reason for any of it to happen. The entire season was the Punisher reacting to things happening around him in a series of things that seemed to go towards something that was a fulfilling ending, but really it just didn't grip me. Number 9, Iron Fist Season 2. So Season 2 took the lemons of Season 1 and made some pretty good lemonade with it, but it was still a little sour. They could have added a little bit more sugar. There were a lot of improvements to the fight choreography, and the storyline was enhanced and made to be really, really great. I fell in love with Davos as a wicked anti-hero kind of character. I love what they did with Colleen Wing, and the backstory and all of the additional information on Kunlun was really great. There were a lot of cool things that happened in Iron Fist Season 2. However, there was still this stigma and a bitter taste after Season 1 that was kind of hard to get over. It still was pretty good though. Number 8 is Daredevil Season 2. And Daredevil Season 2 was my least favorite for one big reason. It was almost not at all about Daredevil. The first half was a backdoor pilot for The Punisher, and the second half was shoehorning Elektra into the story so that we would care about her leading into the Defenders. There was also large storylines about Karen and big storylines about Foggy, and almost nothing about Daredevil himself, which sucks after such a good season 1 of the show. Number 7 is Punisher Season 1. Now, Season 1 of The Punisher was pretty amazing, and going forward, all of these are going to end up being great, and it's just varying levels of great. It covered themes of revenge, justice, mental illness from vets coming home from war. It did this perfectly. And I loved the exchange between him and his guy at the computer, and how even the Punisher's allies had to be worryful of crossing him in the wrong way. Jon Bernthal brought this character to life in a way that no other person has ever done the Punisher. He did such an amazing job. There are a bunch more that I like more than this show, but I don't want that to degrade the quality of the first season of The Punisher. Number 6 is Luke Cage Season 1. Now, Season 1 of Luke Cage wasn't our first introduction to the character, because he did spend some time on Jessica Jones Season 1. But it was the first time that we saw him in his element in Harlem. We found out more about his origins and his backstory, how he got his powers, all of these amazing things. He is probably my favorite of the Marvel Netflix characters, because I'm a sucker for the Boy Scout kind of character. But you can also tell that he's not just doing all of that for nothing. There are stakes with the character of Luke Cage. He has his freedom and he doesn't want to lose that, but also he wants to protect his neighborhood. And also, now going further into the list, we're going to start talking a lot more about the bad guys, because the bad guy in Season 1 of Luke Cage was amazing. Cottonmouth was perfect. And even though he was kind of wiped out early on and replaced with some other bad guys that weren't as good, I think his portrayal alone was worth ending up this high on the list. Number 5 is Jessica Jones Season 3. So it's the final season of Jessica Jones and Netflix Marvel shows in general. So this had a lot to deliver on, and they did a really good job with it. Remember what I said about Season 2 and their attempt to make the storyline personal? Well, they actually achieved that with Season 3 of Jessica Jones. The writers learned from their mistakes, and they told a really cool story of two sisters with superpowers and how they envy the other's lives and all of this. Like, it was very, very personal, and I dug it a lot. Superb storytelling on all sides, and I was cheering by the end of Season 3. Jessica Jones is an amazing hero, even if she doesn't want to be. Number 4 is going to be Daredevil Season 1, the one that started it all. Daredevil revolutionized superhero TV by portraying it in a gritty and realistic way. The hallway fight of Season 1 was worth the price of admission alone. But so much was accomplished in Season 1 of Daredevil. Not the least was the introduction of Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, into the MCU and, the Marvel Netflix shows. The interplay between the two of them was stellar. It was so amazing to see. They were at odds with each other, even though they barely met until almost the very end of the season. It was really great storytelling. I loved Season 1 of Daredevil. All right, we're in the final 3. Number 3 is Jessica Jones Season 1. So speaking of really great bad guys, Kilgrave, portrayed by David Tennant, was so good, he blew almost every other bad guy out of the water. And he was the perfect bad guy for Jessica Jones Season 1. He was a really good Lex Luthor to Jessica Jones' Superman, reluctant Superman, as it were. The themes of PTSD were really strong in this season. Strong overall for the show, but mostly in Season 1, they really dove deep into that aspect of Jessica Jones as a character. Plus, Luke Cage was in half the show. It was just so many great things that it was really hard for me to make this list. It almost got knocked up some, but I think number 3 is where there's so many great things, it's so hard to list them all about this season of Jessica Jones. My number 2 pick is Luke Cage Season 2. A hero is only as good as the villain that they fight. And we learned that lesson hard in Season 1 of Luke Cage. The writers did course correct, though, and they introduced a really cool bad guy by the name of Bushmaster to Luke Cage Season 2. He was a street fighting, voodoo using supervillain that really was the equal of Luke Cage in terms of power scale, but it was also a lesson in how that power could be used to do some really, really terrible things, even in the name of good. The cool thing about it was that both sides of the conflict between Bushmaster and Luke Cage, they both thought they were the hero of that story. And in the end, Luke Cage's life changes forever because he has to also now define what a hero means to him and how can he do the most good. I think that Luke Cage from season 1 to season 2 was the perfect journey for answering that question. And my number one choice for best Marvel Netflix series is Daredevil Season 3. The best things about it was it got rid of a lot of the nonsense of Season 2, and it takes place in the aftermath of the Defenders, but doesn't really do a ton about mentioning it, because I think they realized that that was a bad idea. But this season dives really deep into Matt Murdock's origins, his backstory, but also into him really trying to decide if being a hero is really what he wants to continue doing. It brings him back into the Kingpin's crosshairs, and that hallway fight I mentioned in season 1 became a breaking out of prison fight in season 3. It escalated real fast. It's an epic finale for the show and for Matt Murdock's story arc. And I honestly can't think of any of the other seasons that I enjoyed more than Daredevil Season 3. Wow, okay, so that was a super hard list to make, but I want to know, what would your list look like? Let me know down in the comments. I want to know what your favorite seasons were. What heroes do you think did a better job in their storytelling than others? Let's discuss that down in the comments. Otherwise, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at TheTurnoutUSAA. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, check out usaaudiences.com. And as always, I am your host, Aloy. This has been The Turnout. Thanks for showing up.